So hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Shark Talk presented by Sharks for Kids. Today we're honored to have Dr. Duncan Irschick, and he's going to be talking about 3D modeling of sharks and how he uses those models. So that's going to be a pretty cool topic. If you've tuned in other sessions this week and the previous week, we learned how to draw 2D sharks. So here's one of the hammerheads that I drew. So this is 2D. So if I turn it on its side, there's no third dimension there. And if you ventured onto our website, you may have been able to create some form of 3D shark, but it's a little boxy and not as realistic, but still fun to play with. So today we're actually going to learn a little bit about how to create 3D models and realistic sharks that you can print, like this one here. And we actually have printed these and allow some of the kids in some of our events to paint them and take them home with them. So they're pretty cool. And these models came from Duncan, and he's provided those. And I'll be showing you later on our website where you can find the 3D models of the sharks and get access to some of this, and then also some of the other activities that are available. So let me just start off by introducing Dr. Duncan Irschick. He is a professor at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. It's a beautiful campus out here. I've been meaning to get up there. And he has a really cool digital life project that he's going to talk to us today, where he creates 3D virtual twins of an actual animal. So sharks are one of the animals that he'll be showing you, but he can do this for virtually any type of animal or even a person. And so it's a really cool technology, and I'm going to turn things over to him and let him kick things off and show us more about this 3D world that he lives in. So Duncan, are you on?
Yes, I am on. Thank you, Ron and Jillian. And welcome. I hope everyone can hear me. In about 1 minute, I'm going to share my screen and allow you, and I'm going to give a short presentation on the work that we're doing. So actually, why don't I do that now? Here we go. All right. Great. If there's any issues, please just send a comment to the organizers. But I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you, Ron and Jillian, for organizing this, and I hope you're all staying safe and sane. I'm here with my family too. We're all just trying to stay occupied. So I'm hoping to give you guys some fun new facts and to learn some exciting new things and to really excite you and innovate you. And in order to do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about a project I've been working on with a bunch of colleagues called the Digital Life Project. The concept of this project is to create accurate 3D models of life on Earth. And if you want to learn more, there's the website, which is just digitallife3d.org, which I'll show you in a minute. And on that website, we talk about our mission, why we're doing this work, and also shows people how you can download these models for free. You can do it at your home. So if any of you have access to maybe a 3D printer, or just software, you can download these and view these and visualize these, or even if you just have a computer. So I want to talk to you a little bit about why we're doing this work, why it's important, and how it impacts you. And to start, let me talk a little bit about really the underlying basis for our work. I'm sure a lot of you really enjoy right now watching Hollywood movies, right? They're an escape for us from these unusual times. How does Hollywood make special effects? Many of you have seen, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy. You had this raccoon called Rocket Raccoon. Well, the way they made that Rocket Raccoon was they put actually a stuffed raccoon inside a whole bunch of cameras, like what you see here on the top left, and they photographed it from many different points of view. Then, using computer software, they create a 3D model of that raccoon and ultimately transport it into Rocky Raccoon. This process is called photogrammetry. It is a process that is widely used in the entertainment industry for creating 3D avatars. Let me give you another example. Suppose, any of you ever seen a zombie movie? I love zombie movies, as do my kids, of course. Who doesn't? The way all those characters run around, running away from the zombies, you see people do it. What they do nowadays is they take a normal human being, sort of what you see in the upper right. They put them in this studio with all these cameras. They photograph them and create these virtual 3D avatars of them. So this is, and then they use them in the movies for special effects. This is a way of recreating the world around us. And this is done not just for humans or raccoons, it's also done for landscapes, such as you see in the bottom right. You can take a drone and fly around a field and take photos and recreate that scene in beautiful 3D. This is changing the way we think about special effects in the world around us. It allows us kind of unparalleled access to really see and visualize the world that we experience. So I'm going to talk to you about how we're applying this technology to the biological world around us and how it can benefit us. But let me ask a couple of questions. And maybe these are questions you can think about too on your own time. How can we use these 3D Hollywood techniques to understand the world that we live in a positive way? I don't know about you, but I'm a big believer in using technology for positive things. The reality is technology can be used for pretty negative things in life, and there's things that you can do to make a lot of money off it, but I'm interested in doing it and using a positive way to understand the world around us. I'm a scientist, and I'm interested in using this for the power of science and to educate people and help people really understand this world. And that to me is what science is all about. Science is about using logic and a process to understand this world and have it make sense to us. So how can we use them to further the cause of science and education in a way that benefits everyone and not just benefits some people? Let me talk to you a little bit about what the concept of digital heritage. Now, digital heritage, you might have heard of this term. It means different things to different people. To me, and I think to many people, it means preserving the world around us in a digital format that is more permanent and more stable and more shareable and more democratic than in forms that ultimately can't be shared. And let me give an example of that. On the upper left, you see an image here by the nonprofit SciArc. They used laser scanning to scan downtown Philadelphia, which has a lot of really interesting historical structures and houses. And then they put it online so that anyone can experience it. And we have a historical record because one day, downtown Philadelphia, as we know it today, won't exist. And the truth is many elements of human architecture don't last that long. For example, sculptures or even human beings. You can see down below, before President Obama left office, Autodesk actually scanned his face and you can download his face. Wow, very cool. But how do we actually use these techniques for recreating life on Earth in 3D? And this is a really daunting task. And I want to tell you, and you might ask, well, why would we even bother doing that? That's a great question. Think about it this way, just like a building could disappear and we don't have a good historical record of it, we want to be able to recreate life on Earth in the same way. We want those digital records that scientists and educators can use to teach us so we don't forget. And there's many animals out there in the world today, sea turtles, penguins, frogs, spiders, of course. These are all animals. Some of them are very rare. Some of them become increasingly more rare. Some of them are hard to find. Some of them we don't have access to in museums. Scientists need to understand these animals. So we want to be able to give them tools to do that. And one group of animals that is probably one of the most threatened group of animals on this planet, if not the most threatened, are sharks. Now, obviously, if you've logged into this and you follow Sharks for Kids, they do wonderful work talking about why sharks are so threatened. But let me kind of explain to you a few reasons why we picked this group to really study sharks. One reason is that sharks are really apex predators in most ecosystems. They have very long gestation periods. It takes them a long time to become reproductively mature. They therefore can't really tolerate being fished, and sharks are being overfished at a very large rate. If you look at hammerhead sharks in the upper left, 99, their overall population numbers has declined by at least 99% due to overharvesting, overfishing, climate change, habitat disturbance. And you can make that same argument for many other sharks, such as the ones that are shown here. Sharks are also animals that you can't really just go to a museum and just pull out. They're big, some of them are very large, they're hard to preserve. So if we want to study their body shape, their anatomy, we want to understand them, the way they live, having these 3D recreations is super valuable. But how do we do that? How do we actually get that to happen? So our Digital Life project is a collection of accurate, proportional, and high-quality digital 3D models of live animals and plants and other organisms to support really three main causes. Conservation. And conservation is important because by visualizing these 3D models, which I'll show you in a minute, it'll hopefully convince you that they have value. They allow you to see the animal in a new way. Immersive hands-on education using new scientific tools and science. And this important point about science, many scientists create data. That's what we do. However, the reality is that data is not always readily available to everyone. When scientists publish data, it goes on websites and you have to pay to access those articles. What we've been interested in doing is really giving these models back to the public for free. And actually we've done that very successfully, I believe. We've had over 30,000 downloads of our models and growing. So here's a question you're all wondering. Okay, how do you create 3D models of live animals? After all, doesn't seem maybe that hard to do something like downtown Philadelphia. But how do you do this in the wild? So let's talk about that.
So I have to interrupt you, Duncan. That question has just been popping up all over the Q&A session, so they're excited to hear how you create.
Absolutely. As am I. Now, this is actually something that, especially now, if you're a little bored at home, you can do today. In fact, all you need is a smartphone. So if your mom or dad have a smartphone that you can use, or you have one, and most smartphones have very good cameras, you can take a good example is something like a rock or a log outside. You can go on and take photos of it and actually create your own 3D model, and there is free open access software that you can use. This is actually an example from the Zoo Atlanta. Now here's a cool one. That frog you see there is the most toxic frog in the world. That's one of the really famous poison dart frogs called the golden poison dart frog that Indians use. In South America, they actually capture these animals very carefully, and they put the poison from this animal on their darts. So but this animal here, we actually photographed in a zoo. We had a multi-camera rig. We took a series of photographs of it. We create what's called a 3D mesh. It's sort of like it converts those 2D photos to a 3D mesh. And that 3D mesh is like a fabric. And then it's almost like you're painting on top of that fabric. You're recreating the actual colors of that animal. This final 3D texture geometry is the ultimate 3D model. It is a digital replica of that original animal. In this case, it's a frog with those little tadpoles on his back. He's a dad on the go with his little tadpoles roaming around. Now this is a model of a loggerhead sea turtle that was captured. I hope you all can see it. At a water plant in South Florida and rescued and then let go. But before we actually let go, we were able to photo capture it with a series of cameras. I'll show you some examples of that in a minute. And then an animator named Johnson Martin worked with us to recreate that animal, not just the shape of it, and the color, but also the movements. And this model is available freely online. Let me actually show you some other examples. I'm going to open up my website. And by the way, if you want to learn more about this work, you can go to this website, which I believe Mr. Watkins will provide to you, as digitallife3d.org. It's a website here that explains our mission, who we are, our team, our partners. We work with partners all around the world, zoos, nonprofits. We have technology that we use that we describe here. And then we talk about the 3D models and how we put them out. We talk about the process. If you're interested in technology, you might be interested in learning more about this process. The process of photography, the people behind the story. I'm sure many of you are interested in going to college right now, and that's fantastic. In fact, two of the students who worked with us, who helped develop this technology, were undergraduates. So I believe strongly that you should let young people take risks and do exciting things. They can do amazing things. Now, as part of this website, we have something called a Sketchfab website, and you're welcome to go to it. And on this website, this has all of our models shown here. I want to show a few of them to you. These are some of our more popular ones. We've done sea turtles, frogs, we've done snakes, we've done rhino from the Perth Zoo, and of course, we've done sharks, which I'll talk about in a minute. We've done many frogs, we've done all kinds of animals, lizards. I'll show you even a few more right here. This is a fun one we've done, and I'm going to open this one up because I think it's a beautiful model. We did a jumping spider. Jumping spiders are awesome. And this one took many, many hours to create and from live jumping spiders. With these models, what we can do is you can do this too. You can move around them. You can zoom in and learn about certain things. For example, you can see the fangs right here. You can see all the eyeballs. You can see all the hairs. There's all this wonderful detail that animals have. Everything that these animals have has a reason. Evolution never doesn't do something for no reason. So this allows you really to experience these animals in just a totally different way. Let me give you another example. I'll get to sharks in a minute, but I'm sure a lot of you would love to see a close-up of a bottlenose dolphin. We actually worked with a group in Panama to scan this, to recreate this bottlenose dolphin. And this bottlenose dolphin was a live individual. We know the mass of this animal. And what I'm doing is I'm just rotating around this animal. And you can see it has all the features that we think of. Keep in mind it's a mammal. It has a blowhole right here. You can see it has unique characteristics such as the scarring around the lips where it burrows in the sand. It has a little part on the underside of the chin, which is a distinctive feature of this particular animal. It has all the correct anatomy that we see here. And what you see with this animal is, in fact, the technology we use is really, this animal is really a wireframe, such as you show here. And then we literally almost like layer it like frosting on top of a cake. And little by little, we build up that animal piece by piece by piece until we get to a final render like this. And that's the final piece that we give to you. And these kinds of models are unique, I believe, because they are models of living animals and they're accurate, and they can be also downloaded for free. And you can download these models for free. So when you actually look at these models, you're welcome to go to this today. If you're excited and download them, we've got all these fantastic animals for you to access, lizards and rhinos, and we're doing so many more with so many partners. And sharks are a very important part of this work for the reasons we just mentioned. Let me actually go back to the slides for a minute and talk about how we do sharks. Sharks are hard. It's maybe not so hard to do a frog, but how do you do a shark? And I'll tell you about the first time we did it. We worked with a collaborator named Neil Hammerhead from the University of Miami. He works with sharks and he captures them in a safe way. He uses permits. It's a very safe way to work with sharks. And the reason why is this, in this image you see, this is a blacktip shark, which is a very common shark in South Florida. The animal has a pump in its mouth so it can breathe. This animal is perfectly safe and was released in good health. When we capture this, we were able to take a series of photographs of the animal and recreate a mesh of the animal with several animators named Dan Day and Robert Gutierrez. After this mesh was done, we were able to recreate a full 3D model of this shark. Let me show you that model right now. And this was the first shark model we made, and we've been sharing it very widely on the internet. And blacktip sharks are small, active, piscivorous sharks. They live in South Florida and all the coastal regions of the world. These animals are, this particular individual is colored brownish because it was captured in an area that's sort of more brownish or brackish water. And with this, we can zoom into the animal. We can see little details. We can see the gills. You can see the lateral line. You can see the motion of the animal. And one thing we always think about with sharks, how we depict them in media is very important, the way we perceive them. Most people perceive sharks as very violent, very aggressive. And yet this shark, when you look at it, is moving slowly. It's calm. The reality is most of the time sharks are calm. They're curious. Sharks rarely move quickly because to do that, They waste a lot of energy. And so immediately I believe that when you look and just move around the shark and think about it, you really gain appreciation for this animal, the shape, the counter shading, the fact that the top is colored more darker than the bottom, because counter shading is a very important part of being a predator. Now, this experience we had with the shark was fruitful. In fact, this animal's been downloaded almost 2,000 times. And it really inspired us to really develop a much wider range of what we call the beast cam technology. And again, if you want to learn more, you can go to our website. This is really a multi-camera platform for rapidly capturing 3D models of many different living animals. And we have many different kinds of systems for different animals. But as you can see, none of these seem that good for doing animals underwater. And here, let me give you one example. This is actually an example of a frog that we did with 40 different cameras. This is funded in part by NSF. And these cameras all photo capture this frog at the same time, and you create a 3D avatar of it. We started thinking about bigger animals, animals that were more rare and endangered, that were really critical to know more about. And we obviously first started thinking about sea turtles. This was some work with the Largo Marine Life Center, where we created a system where we can, when you work with sea turtles, you can bring them up on land, you can photograph them like you've shown here. And then we started thinking about other ways to do sharks. What we did with Neil Hammerschlag with a shark on a boat was great, but we were excited to do sharks underwater, where they can be filmed in a non-invasive way. And fortunately, there's many ways to dive with sharks in a safe way. In fact, in Bimini, where actually Jillian Morris lives, there's a wonderful place where you can dive with great hammerhead sharks. Great hammerhead sharks, as I mentioned previously, are very threatened. These can be very large sharks. Historical records indicate they get up to 20 feet long. Obviously, we don't see any of them like that large. They are generally not threatening to humans, although you certainly always have to be careful when you're in the water with them. And with this, we collaborated with Anjari Foundation, and Casey Sapp was a photographer. You can see picture Casey on the left there at the bottom, and I'm on the right. And Casey brought a series of cameras. We put them on poles. We lured in the sharks with bait, and we worked with a shark feeder named Sean Williams, who's based in Bimini. And we then set up a system sort of like what you see here, a series of cameras in a circle, and the sharks come in the middle. And by doing this, we haven't yet finished these models, but we hope ultimately to get a 3D model of a hammerhead that we collected in a non-invasive way and set a precedent for doing a much wider range of sharks all around the world. That's one of our goals. Let me stop here and show you a few more models. And I'm actually going to show you a model of our third model of a shark, which is I'm sorry, two other models. One is a Caribbean reef shark. This Caribbean reef shark was done in collaboration with OceanX. And this was a fun one because with OceanX, we were actually able to do a dive, which preceded the hammerhead shark dive, and create a 3D model of Sam using GoPro cameras. Caribbean sharks, reef sharks, are very similar to blacktip sharks. They're active piscivores. They're very similar in size and shape and overall morphology, except they tend to spend more time in coral reefs. These sharks, we created a 3D model of this animal, similar from GoPro images. You can see it and view it yourself if you're interested. And let me show you the last shark model we have. We only have 3 right now. We're working on others, like the hammerhead shark. The last one is let's see if we can pull it open. A short-fin mako shark. Short-fin makos are very different from reef sharks and blacktip sharks. They are in a different taxonomic group of sharks. These are these are much more abundant here in the North Atlantic, although you do see them down in Florida. Mako sharks are very fast-moving sharks. They're active hunters. They live in cold water. They are have a very warm body. This was created in collaboration with the Island School in Eleuthera and also Joe Romero, where we were able to use his photographs and a scan of a shark to inform us about the proper morphology. You can see little details about the shark, and I'll show you. You can see the Amphlia lorenzini, these little dots on the nose. Those are jelly-filled canals that they use to detect electricity. When sharks get around 40 centimeters of you or so, they can detect electricity coming off your body. You can see the counter shading, again, darker on the top, lighter on the bottom. And you can see this animal, all the different features, the little fins, the pectoral fins, the dorsal fins, the caudal fins of the shark. So I hope that you can go online and experience these animals for yourself. I encourage you to do so. But let me spend the last few minutes just talking about where we see this going. And obviously technology continues to change. We're very interested in this concept of the biology lab of the future, this ability to search life in a really cool way, using technology in a positive way, to integrate our data with other kinds of data like CT scans, or maybe locality data, to think about an online virtual museum. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to dissect a frog. I love doing it, but many students don't. Wouldn't it be cool also to have virtual frogs that you could interact with and exchange with? So everybody gets a 3D model. We've been providing 3D models of everyone for free, and actually that number should be 30,000. We're getting around 2,000 downloads a month, counting. We work with partners, they provide funding for us, and then we go out and give it back to the public for free, only for nonprofit use. So if you want to learn more, you can go to digitalife3.org and sketchfab.com at digitalife3D and just see and download some of our animals. I just want to mention in conclusion, because we have heard over the years, why does this matter? Why do we need this? And I think I would encourage you to open your minds that just our relationship with predators over the years has changed. Just as wildlife photography has transformed our view of nature, new 3D technologies contain the same potential. They have the ability to tell a story. If you look at this turtle on the right, this was a sea turtle named Scallywag that was found floating half dead in the surf by the Largo Marine Life Center in Florida. They rehabbed it and let it go. And this animal had lost a flipper due to a bite with a shark. I'll actually open up that sea turtle and let you get a look at it. Probably the shark that was most likely to do this was probably a tiger shark. Tiger sharks eat turtles. They have a teeth and a jaw structure that allows them to do that. The fact that this turtle could have a bitten flipper, and you can see the giant bite mark and the teeth marks, you can zoom in yourself if you want, just shows you how tough these animals are. But it also tells you about the very intimate relationship these sharks have with these turtles, the long co-evolutionary story about these animals, how they have co-evolved alongside as predator and prey, and how that's impacted them. So I hope you also view it in that way as well. So at this point, I just want to acknowledge that this is just not my work. It's many other people's work. We have an advisory committee. We have educational technical advisors, scientists, engineers, animators, photographers, many groups of people who been part of this process. And many groups such as grants and funding as well. So I'm going to stop there. I don't have anything additional to show. I don't know. That was some questions or anything else, or
yes, we do have some questions, and that was amazing. And that turtle, I actually checked that out last night, and it's amazing the detail on that and the teeth marks, as you said, that you can see, and it's amazing that it survived.
Yeah, I know.
But thanks again. That was a wonderful talk, and it's such a cool technology, and I could just tell that the kids and everyone listening enjoyed it as well, just from all of the questions. So let me start off with a couple questions for you. One is, how did you get into this? And for any of the kids out there that might be interested in these 3D technologies, whether it's with working with nature or other, how would you recommend? What kind of classes, and how do they go about getting involved?
Sure. Anyone can do. You can do this today. You can start this. You don't need to be rich. You don't need a fancy lab. All you need is a camera, and most smartphones have great cameras nowadays. Or if you just have a camera in the house. There's free open access software that I can send to you, Ron, Jillian, that if you have a parent, they can help you download and use it. It might take a little time to learn to use it, but it's not that bad. But if you want to really learn the skills, I encourage you to just go out and go out and take photographs of things. That's how I got started. I've always loved photography. I've loved just seeing the world through the lens of a camera, because I think photography and taking video is really just about opening your eyes to the world around you. So that's how I got started. I'm not a great photographer. I'm not like Ron here, who's a great photographer. I just enjoy it. And really this is a process of I also enjoy making gear. I enjoy making rigs and trying new challenges. I certainly can definitely tell you that when this project started, many people told us we couldn't do it. I don't believe in that concept of you can't do something. There is no concept that I disagree with more. You just have to keep trying at things, and we just tried building systems that we could do that. So I
That's
build
great advice.
plans.
That's really good advice for everyone out there. Just don't just because someone says it can't be done, don't be discouraged. Just
Absolutely.
try. No, that's a great question. So before I have you stop sharing your screen, so a lot of questions were around where can I find these models? And so if you see that website, and I'll show you how to get there from our website, Sharks for Kids, but the digitallife3d.org is where those models can be found, and they're pretty cool. So I encourage you after today's presentation to go check them out. So if you could stop sharing your desktop.
Sure.
And let me look at the next question we have here, and that is, you had mentioned earlier some free software that people could take pictures with an iPhone and then create a model. What type of software is that, and how could people find it?
Yeah, in the last few years, there's been a movement across the world to create more open source software. Open source software is basically software that's free. It's usually supported by nonprofit foundations or, just individual people who believe in the power of being free, which I definitely agree with. I think it's very powerful. There's two. One is called Meshroom, which I can send it to you now. For the kids out there, it depends a little bit on your age and motivation. My guess is you might need your parents to help you a little bit with this. So if you have a mom or dad or a caretaker who cares about you a little bit and is willing to invest the time, I think if they sat down for an hour, they could do it. There's some great YouTube tutorials. So that's one. There's another one called Colmap. These are created by academic institutions for open source, but they're free. I can send links, and hey, if you're motivated, you can download them today and create 3 miles today. It's not, I will say this, kids, there's a lot of jobs out there in this area. This is a huge growing area of 3D work, and so if you want to gain skills to eventually go to something fun for a career, like you want to work in Hollywood or in video game technology, this is a great way to get started.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, it's really cool technology, and it applies to the gaming world, so it's a good skill set to have. Get this question asked of every speaker, so you have to answer this one too. What is your favorite shark? And then to elaborate, someone also said, what was your reaction when seeing that shark for the first time?
My personal favorite are Caribbean reef sharks. I just think of them, I mean, when I've worked with them, I've never found them to be particularly threatening. You have to respect every shark, obviously. But I've just found them to be beautiful sharks. When you get in the water with them, they're just gorgeous sharks. And they're curious. They're like dogs, they're just like, hey, what's going on? And so I love everything about them. I love all sharks, but I think to me, Caribbean reef sharks, and the first time I saw one, I think my first response was not fear, but just appreciation, really, for them. I'd say a close second are mako sharks. Short fin makos are just beautiful sharks. So those are the two sharks, number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, makos are beautiful sharks.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
Joe's favorite shark, obviously, too.
Yeah.
So now we've got a really good question. You mentioned this technology is used in movies. So what are some of the shark movies out there that use this technology, and which one's your favorite?
Well, that's a really great question. It's complicated. It's not a simple answer. I think one thing to remember that what movies are trying to do is often create highly stylized characters that have a story, right, or a personality. they're not necessarily trying to take a shark from the real world and put him directly into the screen, right? So if you saw Finding Nemo, you saw 4 sharks but the way they actually create those animals is they do create accurate 3D models of them, and then they warp them. So if you want to know for sharks, I'm not actually aware of any examples of anyone have done this. I think we're the only one that's created real 3D sharks. I do have an amazing video to share with you kids that is a award-winning group in France that created a short film called Maestro, which used we did a 3D model of a frog, and they used it in their film. So that's, you're seeing this everywhere. It's just, what they do is they take the real model and they warp it and they change it. So it's really, think of it as like the foundation. It's almost like bread and butter that you then alter and move. They're tools that they use, but they don't necessarily take them and put them directly into movies. I think that's the next generation. That's where it's coming the next 5 years.
No, I agree. It's a lot of cool technology they use, but it's not quite what you do. It's sort of a notch above. Another question we had has to do with the printing of 3D sharks, and I had shown this shark, and people were wondering, can you print these with colors, or how do you paint that? How would the color be added to the shark to make it realistic?
Color, I mean, 3D printing, you can 3D print in color, but it's not, the technology for that is not very good. It's very expensive. So unless some of you have a couple $1,000s to just spend, which I'm guessing most of you don't, I wouldn't waste your time with that. I would suggest doing what Sharks for Kids is doing, which is getting the prints and painting them. My kids do it. It's fun and it's easy. And if you just get some watercolor or latex paint, you can paint over the 3D prints. If any of you, so I'd say if any of you are interested in doing 3D printing stuff, that's the best, or coloring, that's the best way to do it.
Yep, that's a lot of fun. That's one of the favorite activities. Plus they get to keep the shark after the activity. Sure. So then I got a lot of questions about, hey, have you modeled this kind of shark, this kind of shark? So they wanted to know, have you modeled a goblin shark, a basking shark, which that would be a huge model. And then what is sort of your next shark that you would love to model?
Yeah, we're trying to raise, prior to, unfortunately, COVID-19, we were in a big campaign to raise money to do sharks around the world, and we're still planning on doing that. It's just going to take some more time. We are working on the Hammerhead Shark right now. We're actually trying to raise money with some colleagues to do a whole bunch of sharks, and actually smaller sharks like carpet sharks and some smaller sharks that maybe people are less aware of, things you see in aquariums. But I'd love to do tiger sharks next. I think it'd be great to go on a trip to do tiger sharks. I think you have to be, obviously, I've worked with so many different animals over the year that I have a very keen appreciation for how careful you have to be. And if you go into a situation and you set up a bunch of cameras, you're not paying attention, you go work with tiger sharks. So one of the mottos we have, because of all the animals we work with, like polar bears and rhinos, is we always say everything has to be safe for the humans and it has to be safe for the animals. And so we always think carefully everything we do about that. And so I would love to do tiger sharks. I would love to do more smaller sharks. And then I think eventually it'd be cool to do some whale sharks would be awesome. And I think just to do sharks all around the world, I'd love to do that. I think we can raise money. The numbers are compelling. Between the blacktip, the mako, and the Caribbean reef shark, we've had probably 4,000 downloads, 5,000, I forget.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and that's only in a matter of less than a year and a half or so. So people around the world want these models, and if you extrapolate that to 400 species, you're looking at millions of usages all around the world, and presumably, hopefully, positive uses.
Oh, that's terrific. And you sort of led on to one of these other questions when you were answering that, but what's the most dangerous animal that you've done a 3D model and photographed?
Well, we work with a timber rattlesnake with a colleague, and I think rattlesnakes, the venomous snakes can be dangerous, no doubt. We're careful. One of the rules I've worked with venomous snakes is you don't touch them with your hands. But I would say that's an animal that we had a lot of respect for, definitely. We've also worked with polar bears, but the reality is with polar bears, I don't think it was dangerous because we never got in the same cage as a polar bear. Yeah, I'd say, I mean, but the thing about danger is you never know until something happens.
No, exactly.
So animals are never dangerous till something happens. So we have the same philosophy every time, which is everything needs to be safe. We've never had an incident. I don't ever want one. So.
Yeah, I guess that one of the frogs you said was the poisonous frog, right?
Yeah.
If you lick that, that would probably be pretty dangerous. So you just have to be
careful. Yeah. There was a guy who was a famous biologist way back in the 19th century, and he started out in Central America and traveled South America. And along the way, he would get frogs and lick them. And he made it to South America, and by the time he got to South America, he licked one of those frogs and he died. So they are incredibly toxic. But I will say this, in captivity, they've lost a lot of their toxicity. So, but in the wild, I would never touch one.
Yeah. Just for those of you using the Q&A session window, I did post in there, I pasted the website. So someone with the name it's one of the last questions I answered. If you expand that, you'll see the website and you could copy that down. And I'll show you that later. Someone asked, what's the most fun part of your job? What gets you to the office?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy, look, I get pleasure out of seeing the models get used. I'll be honest with you. I think it's when I think to me, what matters in life is, you do something positive in your life and you try and make a difference. And so if we can create models that people are using all around the world that makes them happy and gives them some joy and pleasure and has a positive use, that's fantastic. So I think if we made models and no one used them, I'd be a little depressed. It doesn't seem to be the issue. I'd say doing the field work is great. I mean, I love working with partners and the animals. So I'd say that, working with the Hammerhead Shark or the Caribbean Reef Sharks or the makos or polar bears or rhinos, working with the animals, building a connection with the animals. Like when we worked with the rhino, that was really cool. Rhinos.
Yeah, that's a really amazing one. And, and that's
amazing.
Example.
Gentle animals.
Oh, it's
strong. So strong.
Yeah, it's amazing. Had some questions about the printing, and I can answer this and then you can as well. But what if you don't have a 3D printer? How do you print these? There are actual services out there. If you were to Google 3D printing services, there you can upload a file and have them print something. And that's actually, I don't have a 3D printer, but that's how I printed the shark that we got from Duncan. So there are services if you don't have one. People love the spiders too, by the way. I know sharks for kids, but maybe there needs to be a spiders for kids.
I think so.
There's a correlation between kids loving sharks and kids loving spiders. So that was the second favorite. And the turtle as well. They thought that was pretty fascinating. And then, so just speaking of different types of animals, what about a 3D model of a nudibranch? Have you ever done one of those? So Tamara asked that.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we had never done one. We are working with a colleague in Monterey Bay Aquarium to do some invertebrates. I think invertebrates are awesome. I love invertebrates. They're infinitely fascinating. Anyone who's spent time on a coral reef knows this, right? They're harder to do because if you look at something like a nudibranch, they're soft. So if you do scanning, it's more challenging. And I think you'd have to come up with new techniques to do that. The way we do it is we work with partners. Partners come to us and say, we'll give you money to do this work. We have a team of CG artists who are incredible, and I have all my gear, and we work as a team to get it done, and then we give it back to the public. So if someone wants to work with us to do nudibranch, I'd be all for that.
Oh, cool. Well, again, you could tell from all the really good questions that everyone really enjoyed your presentation. And we at Sharks for Kids, I know Jillian and I really appreciate you doing this. You've been a big supporter of Sharks for Kids and allowed us to use the models. And we want to thank you for all of your support as well. And take care during this time and stay safe. And I'll come up and visit you in Amherst once things clear.
All right, great. Well, listen, everyone, it was great talking to you all. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Stay safe and go out and do something fun, okay?
All right, now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'll show you where you can find on the Sharks for Kids website the information that we are talking about here. Okay, so just real quick, some good information if you want to follow Sharks for Kids. This is our website. I'm sure you've been there. You may have gotten there to get to today's webinar. And then also you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you have that, and Facebook. And then at the bottom you see that there's an email address. You can also send us an email. If your question didn't get answered today, or you have a question you didn't ask, I encourage you to go to the website. We've got all kinds of information about so many different types of sharks, and you can find that on the website and most likely get your questions answered. So now let me pull up our website and show you a little bit about how that works. So when you go to sharksforkids.com, this is where you land. It tells you about our program and what we do and how we do outreach to kids, both in person in the classroom as well as over the internet like we're doing today in this webinar. And then these menus across the top have different categories. So if you go to the education menu, the webinars is where you can see our upcoming webinar, and we're going to be releasing our schedule of next week's exciting webinar series. I think that'll be released today, so make sure to put on your calendar and look for that. And then you're going to see some other things on here, shark videos, posters, just all kinds of cool stuff. But at the bottom is 3D models. So when you go to 3D models, that brings you to this page, which talks about digital life. And as you scroll down in here, there's some coloring sheets of the different types of 3D sharks that we have access to. And look here, there's some pictures of the different sharks that kids have painted. So there was a question, you know, can you print them with color? No, you actually get to have the fun of painting the shark itself. So that's pretty cool. So now what you can do is this word digital life, if you click on this, that takes you to the website, one of them that Duncan was showing you. And there's all kinds of information on this site. You'll see there's Duncan there and his team that he talked about. But if you go under 3D models, this will take you to some more information about the website. And then there's a link down here, Sketchfab. And that's what I pasted. So if you want to go to the models, this is the website that you're going to want to go up to. So these are all the spiders. You can see the dolphin that he showed. A lot of you like the dolphin. He's got both the wireframe. Remember, he talked about the wireframe. This is a wireframe model, and then this has the skin and the texture layer. And when you want to view one, you just click on it, and it pulls up the viewer, and it loads the model. And now you've got this really cool shark, this short fin mako you can interact with. And using your mouse, you can spin the shark around and you can zoom in on it. Whoa, zoom too far. You can look right up into its teeth and look at different views. Maybe you want to look at from the top. So these are some of the cool things that you can do on this website. So again, parents and kids, you might want to write this down if you can't find it through the Sharks for Kids website, but it's sketchfab.com/digitallife3D/models. So lots of cool stuff up there. And then make sure when you're on our website to look at, for the parents and teachers out there, we have curriculum. Someone asked a question about, hey, is there going to be a test on this? Well, we actually have curriculum and activities and some tests if you want to take some tests and get your shark education going. But there's lots of activities, coloring sheets, and crafts. And then also for the students, you can look up here and see, again, I mentioned crafts. And if you remember, I showed you Tilly the tiger shark. Well, here's something that you can print out at home and make your own Tilly the tiger shark. It's a lot of fun. I did it and just really enjoyed doing that. So those are all the different types of crafts that we have out there. So I hope you enjoyed today's edition of Shark Talk presented by Sharks for Kids. And please look for the new schedule coming out, and hopefully we'll see you on a call next week. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.